Patterson folks, this is Pastor Trent. We are beginning a new effort to be able to reach out to our folks and to make sure that you have all the tools that you need to be able to live out the Christian life. Remember, we talked about that was an important part of the membership covenant that we have here at Patterson, was to be able to allow the pastor to give you tools so that you can live out your life. One of those is to be able to provide videos. We're going to be rolling out a lot of those at the end of this month in October. And as part of that, we will also want to be able to give you kind of a summary of maybe the Wednesday night service or a Sunday school class, thing that maybe you've missed. And so we're going to be doing that over the next few weeks and see how that works out. We would really appreciate your input on this. Maybe if you have some comments or if you'd like to be a part of helping with this, that would be great. So sit back, relax. We're going to give you usually just about a 5-minute video, a summary of something that took place either in one of our services, Wednesday night or Sunday school classes. And so that you can take this bit, and then we hope you take it and go and search out the scripture yourself and make it part of your life, make it part of your week. So I appreciate your time. God bless you. Hey Patterson folks, this is Pastor Trent. I wanted to kind of review and talk about some of the things that took place in our Wednesday night service this past week. It would have been the first Wednesday night in October of 2013. And we were talking about how to live life with power. We had just gone through a time when we had no electricity here in Comanche. And so that was frustrating a lot of people. But there's a lot of folks, I think, that are living without power spiritually all the time. People that are supposed to be connected with Christ, and yet they're denying that connection that they have with Him. So we looked at John chapter 15, and in that Jesus is talking about that He is the vine we're supposed to be connected to. We're supposed to be staying plugged into Him. He's our source. So that Wednesday night we talked about John chapter 15, specifically verse 7. Let me get my glasses on here. It says, "If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish and it will be given you." We talked about the need for us to stay plugged in, to be able to remain in Him. Otherwise, it says that if we're not, we're going to be thrown away. Burned. And so he says that if we remain in Him and His words remain in us, His word is Scripture, of course, and I want to encourage you to go look up John chapter 15, read the first 7 or 8 verses. It'll be a great devotional for you. But we talked on Wednesday night about power cords, how that we need to stay plugged in to have a life of power. And Jesus said in verse 7 that if we remain in Him and His words remain in us, then we can ask whatever we wish. And that's not a blank check. We'll talk more about that later. But I wanted to give you kind of a visual to help you to understand what he's talking about. And if you've done any electrical work, I've done some, and have some friends that have taught me a lot in this. And I know that in order to complete a circuit, you've got to have your power and your neutral, and then sometimes you have a ground. Well, in Scripture, God gives us those 3 prongs. He gives us His promises, and they're always balanced out by His commands. God gives us His promises and His commands, and then because He loves us and He wants us to be grounded, He gives us examples to look at. Now, Scripture is not always filled with positive examples. Some of them are pretty messed up. Even the ones we look up to, like King David. You know, he had his positives and negatives. But he's just like us. He's human, like us. And he's going to mess up, and so as we do too. So Scripture gives us His promises, His commands, and examples to look at. And so that's what I want you to keep in mind this week, that as you if you want to live a life of power, you've got to stay plugged into Jesus. You've got to remain in Him and His words remain in you. His promises, His commands, and examples. Keep that in mind. That's what we looked at this past Wednesday. God bless you. Hope you have a good week. If you have questions, give me a holler.